You're now listening to the Something Good Podcast Network. Please press any key to continue.
You don't know about the other side of the pyramid? The fifth side? It's called the floor, you dumbass. I just want to make sure he realizes there is a fifth side to the pyramid.
And once you open your fucking mind of unfettered goddamn fairness.
I know all of them, and I believe none of them, which makes me an expert. Well, let's go ahead and do this. Hello, everyone. This is Chris with the Cryptid Conspiracy Cult. Again, I'm here with my host, Quinn.
How's
co-host.
it going?
Today, we'll be covering probably one of the most timeless touchstone cults of all time, the People's Temple. It is a cultural touchstone, I think, and the idea of what a cult can be and how far it goes. Information-wise, how do you know about the People's Temple?
Well,
and Jim Jones.
For one thing, they killed a U.S. senator.
Yeah.
But to kind of go down the nitty gritty, I mean, I know about them kind of leaving the U.S., starting their own commune, more or less. Of course, you know, the Flavor Aid, because we can't afford Kool-Aid. That whole concept. But there was also a movie made within the last 10, 15 years that was kind of like a telltale fictional account of the Jonestown massacre.
I think I know what you're talking about, where the guys, they go down to South America and they got a camera.
Yeah, and the dude looks exactly like the main antagonist, looks exactly like Jim Jones.
Their friend is like helping run it.
Yes.
The girl, she's helping run it.
And she's been there for like a few months. They're like film students that want to make a documentary.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of that because I remember that was on Shudder for the longest time. And then
I'm shocked you know about it.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it on one of the streaming services because I love just going to the shitty.
You reassure me that I'm not having fever dreams when I see these films. Like that makes me so happy.
Yeah, a while ago we were talking about the movie Shoot 'Em Up with fucking Paul Giamatti
and Clive Owen. Like,
kills a man with a carrot. It's fucking ridiculous. You'll be great on our episode about underrated movies.
I hope so, man.
Tell me you know the Reign of Fire movie.
Christian Bale with my name. That was the one thing I was like, oh shit, he's got my name.
Yeah, it's got a fucking shit ton of famous people in that movie.
And it went under the rug, which I never understood.
Gerard Butler's in that movie.
Yes, he is. I totally forgot he was in that movie.
Matthew McConaughey's in that fucking movie.
Wait, what?
He's the American that runs
it. Fuck, yeah.
He's like, we were coming down a field in Kentucky, and the sun settled down, and that's when I caught his ass. And I'm just like, that is Matthew McConaughey. Just a beard, a fucking vest, tribal tattoos.
All it's missing is the bongo drums at the waist.
Yeah, the bongo drums, yeah.
But with Jonestown, I knew that they had kind of turned into an isolationist thing. The U.S. Senator had come down to visit and assess what was going on, to kind of get an idea for it. The infamous footage of the camera crew being killed at the runway. Mm-hmm. And you just seeing cult members firing rounds into the plane. Yeah,
so this all drives from the People's Temple, a short little history about Jim Jones. Jim Jones was raised in a Pentecostal type church setting, which is a bit big in faith healing. Down here, we know them as snake handlers, people who believe in their faith in God cannot harm them. Thus the snakes, actually.
Makes
because
sense.
That's actually a verse from the book they pull for, is that the serpent cannot harm me, for I have faith in the Lord, and that's why they handle snakes.
And then they get bit in the fucking neck.
Yeah. Well, nowadays they take their fucking teeth out and do a fucking circus show with them. That's how it used to be. Back in the day, you'd have this old white guy, fucking stark white hair, handling fucking timber rattlers and shit in your goddamn face. And it's just like, oh, fucked off with that shit.
How'd they even find that snake?
Yeah, they found it out back. But like, so he was part of the Pentecostal church going forward, and then he ran across the Seventh-day Adventists, which actually, in the broad strokes, most of the cults we talk about in the United States, Christian-like cults, were former Seventh-day Adventists because of the totality of tent preaching they do.
Yeah.
Like they're not in one set. So a version of this is tent preaching, End of Days. David Koresh was a Seventh-day Adventist before he created the Branch Davidians. Heaven's Gate. A.J. Applewhite had experiences with the Seventh-day Adventists at one time.
And it was another doomsday cult, too. Yeah.
There's a big one in Georgia. I forget the name of it, but they had predicted the end of the world like 4 times.
And Hill Kids is another one. Well, they're not quite as religious. But
they're Mormon-based, actually.
That's okay. Yeah. That's what I thought.
So then you had Shinrikyo, which took a lot of stuff from Buddhists, Taoists, and Christians.
I'm amazed you brought that up, too, because I was just learning about them about a week ago, and my mind was blown.
Yeah, and all these religions have their hands in kind of like media productions and stuff like that. Not so much as like Scientology or the Catholic Church, but they do tell a story that prediction from the Bible of the end of days. That's what they're hoping for. They're hoping that the rapture will happen, they will ascend up, and or stay on earth and defend it for the Lord. And I find that kind of fascinating. That it's a religion of doom. Constantly. David Koresh, very, very later on, took a lot of pages out of Jim Jones's book.
Yeah.
When it came to building his own religion, and what's fascinating about Jim Jones is he takes the most abrupt approach to the Christian like ideology, which is help thy neighbor. The golden rule is very repentant on that one. Another version of this is social equality on a grander scale. Yeah. Because what some people don't realize is Jim Jones had relied on local communist, socialist, very liberal type people because his church was so ethnically diverse.
Yes.
So much like some of the churches we see down south, in like poor areas, white and blacks are in Baptist churches. Baptist religion is huge down here.
Yeah.
And you're from up north, so you had a lot of Episcopalians, Catholics.
Catholicism is really like more out there, like more prevalent.
It's big in West Virginia, actually.
That's really strange. I would not think that. I would think it would be more, Pentecostal or even Baptist.
And going into like the conspiracy, why Catholicism is big in West Virginia is because of all the Italians that moved to West Virginia once a family member is
and the Irish that moved there too.
Well, a lot of it is the prison system. After the fall of certain mobsters, they were sent to state prisons. They're sent to federal max prisons in West Virginia, so it's easier to live there and drive.
Like 2 hours to go see your loved one instead of like 8.
We've said it before, but a famous mobster had died in West Virginia, Whitey Bulger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, so it is kind of a territorial thing for religions to pop up in certain places. I grew up in a Baptist church, but I went to every one of them growing up. Not because of my parents, because as I got older, I just would go to friends' houses, and they'd be like, "Hey, we're going to church. You want to come?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
I was the same way. I was raised Catholic, but when my parents split, my father, he got married, and my stepmother, Baptist. So we would go to Baptist churches, Catholic. There was a couple of times I went to more of like Seventh-day Adventists because of a friend of mine. Yeah. I've met Mormons in my time too. I was seeing a girl for a short period of time while I was in high school that came from a family of Mormons. So it was really, kind of got the best of all worlds. Yeah,
I was fortunate enough to go to a Baptist church my great-grandpa had.
That's cool.
He couldn't read.
What? Wow.
He didn't know how to read, but he knew the Bible in every verse like the back of his hand.
Wow.
There are a lot of people like that who know every verse and don't read.
Just retaining verbal information.
Of course.
That's fascinating. Wow.
And he ran a church in 7th Street Baptist Church in Statesville, North Carolina. It was a very small church, probably about 16 pews altogether.
Wow, that's small, yeah.
It was neat. It was a neat little place to go to when you were a kid. We ended up going into another Baptist church because my dad grew up that way in Taylorsville, North Carolina. But there was a church out that way called Mount Nebo, which is a reference to Mount Nebo in the Bible. Mm. And that was one of the cooler ones. Everybody was cool with each other, except for this one time they weren't cool, and that's why we left. A guy had a mixed wife, and everybody kind of didn't like that shit.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Everybody like it was one of those things where it was like an all white church,
Oh no.
but you didn't think it was all white because of like that's just a demographic of living out in the sticks. No, this guy had a black wife, and everybody wasn't cool with that shit.
Assholes.
And I wasn't cool with a lot of people there either.
No.
I wasn't feeling it. Like I literally sat there and was listening to what they said, and that was it. I retained the information, but I didn't feel saved or anything like that.
Yeah, no.
I think that pisses a lot of people off when you say that shit. Hey, don't you want to be saved? No, not really.
I listened. It just fucking sucked.
Yeah, it's just like,
You're
I
like,
get it.
you're-
Fire and brimstone, brother. Hell yeah.
Christ, I think that got old, in 1640.
Hell yeah, man. Load the gun, pass the ammunition. Like, yeah. I feel you, bro. I feel you. And I think a lot of people like Jim Jones is able to harp on that a little bit. People who don't, especially in the time that the People's Temple was around, which is from 1954 to 1978, which is a very long time for a cult to still be prevalent from the mid 50s all the way to the late 70s, almost going into the 80s.
Yeah, it's almost a quarter of a century.
Yeah, and what's crazy is he had used the teachings of Jesus Christ as a base to create a more racial ideology, which was blacks, whites, Hispanics, Asians, everyone was part of Jonestown, and they kind of went from like this big church out from Indiana, and he would spout some stuff that was kind of fiction. When it came to who's a member of the People's Temple, he had made statements like Lyndon Johnson was part of the People's Temple, but no, Lyndon Johnson is a Baptist from Texas.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess because the People's Temple said it was the People's Temple of Baptists, Episcopalians, Pentecostals, all that. Like
Wow.
he said the branch or like the tree of the People's Temple devolves into all the other Christian Abrahamic religions.
It's kind of like, in a way, a non-denominational
church. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And he was able to carry that status for a very long time. There are some stories that come out of before they went to Guyana just to build up some stuff, because he's a faith healer. That's another thing about Jim Jones people I guess didn't realize, was that he would lay hands on you and he would heal you through the power of Christ. And that's big in the Seventh-day Adventist church.
Yeah, I remember actually there, because they also do the thing where it's like casting out demons or
Speaking in tongues.
The whole, you'll see videos of it with death metal music over it, of like a pastor just putting his hand out and the crowd falls back.
Yeah, and there's a lot of difference between that and what you see on television.
Yeah.
On television, like Sunday TV preachers are basically scammers.
Oh yeah, send me your money and God will love you.
It's called a seed faith. And seed faith is really kind of unique because it is a grifting scam. I'll send you a great person that does this is Joel Osteen. Joel Osteen is like the tippy top when it comes to rattling off people in Texas.
Of course.
I love the story of the plumber that went to his house and knocked a hole in his wall to fix the floor, and money came pouring out because he had kept money in the wall.
All right, he took a page out of Escobar's book.
Fuck yeah. And like, I'm just thinking, you got money to put in the walls, motherfucker?
The walls are built with money.
Yeah, I use dollar bills as insulation.
All my pipes are gold because I melted down my jewelry.
Yeah. And like, you got so many more I could just rattle off, like Creflo Dollar, it was big. And
Yeah.
a couple of, like his name is literally Creflo Money.
Pat Robertson too had his own little thing too.
Matt Robinson, and then you had Tammy Faye Baker.
Oh my
and
God.
her husband, which is a very unique story about Jim Baker and his wife. He actually got scammed.
Wow,
he
the
got
scammer
scammed.
got scammed.
Yeah, but it was a very like back alley deal he had with this guy from the Liberty College in Virginia, and it's kind of a unique story because I almost went to Liberty College. I had applied for it and got accepted, and I was just like, oh no, I can't afford this. No, no, thank you.
I'm good. That's too rich for my blood.
It is. It's fucking expensive to go to Liberty College because they raise Fox News analysts and preachers.
Like, goddamn, how am I supposed to compete with that?
Dude, they'll kick a girl out for being pregnant. I swear to God, that's in their charter.
Oh fuck, dude! It's one of those places. Like,
Yeah, it's
shit,
in Virginia.
man.
It's a shithole.
Wow.
For lovers.
Yeah, for lovers until you get pregnant.
Yeah, until you get pregnant. Get the fuck out of here. And Jim Jones pulls a lot of his stuff from a more idealistic version of Jesus. which was the share with everyone. Which, you know, these are socialist teachings, and in a political aspect,
Yes.
a lot of them is, you know, pulling away from older teachings of Christianity that don't get mentioned as much. So another version of this is, statistically, preachers are less likely to read out of the book of Luke, because the book of Luke teaches us that God is in your heart and no need for a structure to appease Christ.
Gotcha, yeah.
So it kind of says you don't really need a church.
And in other words, I'm out of money, I'm out of my business, in most cases.
I don't need to go to church
Yeah.
to be saved.
They'd
And
be
a lot-
shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't use that. Catholics especially don't use the book of Luke.
No, I cannot recall a single time. It's always Paul, Peter, Matthew, and of course, you know, John. And then maybe one time I did have a book of Revelations, them reading it, but it was only like one passage.
Revelations.
Revelations is the
Read about Madman.
that shit's just like Mad Max right there.
It's like a fever dream.
It's like it's God of War in biblical form.
Yeah, and he uses that. Jim Jones uses that as a part of unity. He's like, look, you know, and you got to think about what's going on in the 70s, the late 50s and 60s is the idea of nuclear war.
Yeah,
because, you know, the Cold War is, you know, doesn't stop until 80s, and so you're in the tight zone in the 50s with the American war effort from Korea, the loss in Vietnam. You know, he's pulling a lot of people in from these backgrounds who feel left out as part of America, and I think that's kind of goes into what cults are. They supply a place of being for a lot of people.
You could be a part of something bigger than yourself. It's kind of like how some guys will fall into like the neo-Nazi groups or the supremacist groups that are throughout society, disenfranchised youth trying to find a place to belong.
The Brother Vineyard theory.
The Brother Vineyard, but you're not wrong though. That's the fucked up thing.
And the Brother Vineyard theory, if you don't know this, just watch American History X about 2 times in a row, and you kind of figure out what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's kind of how it would work in a situation like with people constantly seeing tragedy. You know, people seeing coming out of the McCarthy era, coming out of with the nuclear threat. American pride being so far down, it's like you don't really feel like you have any home at this point.
And I think a very unique version of this is just like, so a lot of these people, firstly in the Midwest, have been going to church as children, forced to go.
Yep.
They don't really want to be there. There may be some type of action being done against them and undermine their parents. You know, like, people hurt children all the time. And you got this guy with sunglasses on inside being very cool with everybody. He's shaking the hands of black parishioners. He's allowing, you know, Latinos to be mixed in with, you know, white Christians in a very public place.
Yeah.
And they're actually doing a lot of social work. They're doing a lot of community outreach stuff.
They did a lot of community, like they would have like open kitchens and everything too quite often. Like they'd feed their community. And
you know, that's one thing you don't really hear about when these kids grow up in the 50s and 60s and 70s. It's like, we didn't do a lot of that.
No, that's way ahead of its time in terms of political stance too.
And they're very anti-capitalist. They said greed has driven away the Lord, stuff like that. That was part of one of his sermons, was the belief that, you know, money corrupts absolutely, which is true. You know, money corrupts everybody. A good example of this is the Catholic Church spent $4 million in Kansas recently to try to ban abortion, and they lost.
That worked.
And $4 million just kind of disappeared.
Money well spent.
On probably helping a homeless person or
trying to do, you know,
catching rapists.
Yeah, sure, right. No. At that point, that's hush money.
Plane tickets to Nicaragua.
We need to hide Cardinal Francis and Cardinal. They had something go a little south in South America.
Yeah, well, they don't play that fucking game down there. They cut your fucking hands off.
Yeah, for real.
But they're have to send SEAL Team Alpha and that motherfucker to get your ass. He's like, who's SEAL Team Alpha? It's Catholics. It's much Catholics. It's all Catholics, and they all have their hands. It's very discouraging when they catch your hands.
They use shurikens that are in the shape of a crucifix.
Yeah, and you know, can you imagine, you know, being a Catholic in one of these towns and seeing this kind of outreach and stuff like that? Like, I'm just as a perspective point of seeing someone like Jim Jones, who's, you know, working with his community, he's welcoming everybody under the sun.
Yeah.
In his tiny church, and it's always packed. people are going in and out of it like it's an unemployment office because he was helping people. He was also doing terrible things to people as well. He was sexually advancing on men and women.
I didn't know about that. I knew there was a lot of sexual assault cases with women. I didn't know about men. I had never heard that until now.
It's very limited stories on the men part, but there are men who said, "Hey, this guy would invite us into his church, get us real close, and he would try to be with my wife, and then he would try to be with me."
Oh my God!
It's a very unique story of Jim Jones that doesn't get brought out a lot. I think because it's just overshadowed by the mass suicides,
of course,
and mass murder. And that's another topic of actually of insanity is is it mass suicide or is it coercion of mass murder? And you kind of deal into the limits, but going into it, you can't really do nothing because he already did. He killed himself.
Yeah.
Well, he died. He had someone shoot him.
He didn't even drink the flavory. That's what gets me.
Yeah, all this flavory is going to waste. Jesus Christ.
Wasn't cheap. It's 5 cents a pack.
He didn't put sugar in it too.
Damn, this shit's bitter.
Cheap motherfucker. So, have you heard the story? All right, so there's a lot of stories about Jim Jones, a lot of sexual, predator type stuff. But there's also the White Knights thing he would do. So he had tried to mass suicide a bunch of people in the church beforehand.
Yes,
so
I remember
as
reading
a
about that.
test, he asked everyone to drink so they could all meet God, and it was a test. And he did it. Saddam Hussein couldn't have done it better.
Yeah, really.
He looked across the aisles. He looked across the pews and said, "Who didn't drink their goddamn drink?" Because they know they're not faithful, and they're gonna be down with the fucking system.
There was one sip missing from this room.
Yes, and they all drank it, and he was able to target which ones, which is very, very interesting way of finding your not really enemy, but lost in faith people. And he would have these like 101s with fucking carrot people, and it's just like, this is very fucking weird.
Yeah,
yeah, and I think a lot of his stuff got cut because of the interracial religion that he was doing. He was promoting healthcare through the church. He was promoting social justice. He had funds put in for parishioners who were being arrested.
Wasn't he also heavily involved in the civil rights movement too?
He was.
For a while.
He was, and that's what gives him later on when he goes to San Francisco, and he's able to expand his church for 300.
That's right.
About 300 more members, and this is where it kind of gets kind of funny because by the time he reaches San Francisco, around 75, the hippie movement is in full swing. Mm-hmm. And you have these new age gurus are coming in. You have these people who are starting, communes out in the fucking woods.
Yeah.
Your Mansons had just been tried for murder in 71.
Yep.
And there's, a lot of trepidation on cults. There's actually a great storyline of a famous deprogrammer and how he got into the game. And he became a deprogrammer for the rest of his life afterward because his son got snatched up by a Christian-based cult.
Jesus.
And they wouldn't let him leave, and so he rolled up on that joint and fucking took his kid and left.
Damn right.
Locked him in a fucking hotel room for 3 days.
And just worked him down.
Worked him. And he had no experience doing it, and then he decided to get in that business. I can't remember his name offhand, but damn, it's on Drunk History if you want to watch it.
Of course, that's best series.
Yeah. The Dolly Parton one is fucking hilarious.
That one or the Puritan one fucking cracked me up. Just because she just straight up goes, they didn't even give her a fucking grave, but they have a grave for Jim fucking Morrison. Like, I was like, God damn, dude, Jim Morrison's great. Like, why? Why the hate?
Oh, God, I share a name with that piece of shit.
God, piece of shit. Well,
yeah.
I can't agree, but I can't disagree either.
Yeah. He died in France.
He wasn't even here.
Yeah, fuck him, fucking not American. Goddamn draft dodging hippie.
You draft dodging hippie.
Go hang out with Ted Nugent, you fuck.
That would be an interesting duo.
Oh, another ball buster. He's a fucking chicken hawk.
Shit his pants to get out of the draft. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then bitches when no one wants to join the military. And so, like, another part of Jim Jones's, like, overarching story is just the way he was able to advance very quickly within the church. So there are a lot of parallels between Jim Jones and David Koresh, where he's catching in age gaps in promotion. So when you think of age gaps, like let's say you go to work at like a warehouse or something, and this warehouse has been around for a while. Well, if the majority of their employees are like 50, 55, and then they start hiring, you're going to get young people in there because warehouse workers tend to be, manual labor.
Yeah.
So you get people at 20, 22, 23, and now you have a 30 fucking year gap in age. So you fuck up your demographic really quickly in the workplace when you got all these young people, your young guns, working with, the old timers.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of facilitated that in the religious, because for David Koresh, the woman he was with had died, and he was able to take over her mantle. And Jim Jones kind of did the same. He was able to take over for a guy who died. Even parishioners were like, "Who's this young guy in the sunglasses?" And did you know the story why he wears the sunglasses?
I never understood why he wore it. What would cause that?
A lot of it was he was self-conscious about the damage to his eye, much like Hank Williams Jr.
Okay.
He had his eyes did not look well. They didn't like match his face kind of because they were damaged.
Damn.
He had a sensitivity to light as well.
That's what I figured it was. I thought it had something to do with sensitivity of light, but I didn't know his eyes were.
Yeah, and then like if you think about that iconic look of Jim Jones is standing there in a white suit and a tie with sunglasses on, it's like it's a very specific look you're going for.
Yeah.
Is it evil? Is it good?
It's very, because it's kind of the contrast in both aspects. It's black and white. It's yin and yang. It's a blend between both, which is very much a reflection in his outfit as well as his church too.
Yeah. And he, like, every time I see a picture of Jim Jones, I'm like, this dude's a fucking shark. like I'm serious. When I think of it, I think of that tail, that Quint tails in Jaws, and it's just like black eyes, like doll's eyes. I'm just like, is that what's behind his glasses? Like, he's got glassy black eyes.
Just nothing there.
Yeah, like it's fucking insane.
He sometimes he kind of reminds me of certain photos of him remind me so much of fucking Butterball from the Hellraiser series.
Yeah,
with the black goggles except sunglasses. The only difference.
Dude, I laugh so hard when I watch the Hellraiser movies because I'm just like it's all a prank call gone bad. That's how I see. That's how I see Hellraiser. It really is because like Frank opens the muzzle box and they zip his ass to hell and tear him to pieces, and then Kirsty Cotton.
Yeah,
everybody pronounces it Kirsty. No, it's Kirsty.
It is Kirsty.
But Kirsty Cotton's like, oh shit, I found a box. And then they show up, the fucking pleasure squad just pulls in, and he's just like, yo, you opened that fucking box. She's like, no, I didn't open the box, Frank did.
Bitch, I just saw you open the goddamn thing.
You're lying. And I love the female Cenobite just walking up like, bitch, you fucking lied. Like, and then they just, because she's following her up the steps.
Yeah.
And he's just like, all right, fine, we're cool. And she chucks that motherfucker out the window, get the fuck off my prop. And then she ends up in the second movie. So they end up like, I know we're talking about Hellraiser for some reason, but like in the part 2, they get the box again, and Kirsty's there, and like that is the best fuck you moment. It's just like, bitch, you did it again.
What
like
the
you
fuck?
opened the box again.
Now we know this shit was intentional.
Yeah.
You lied to us the first time, and now we know.
Like that one Cinebox, like, liar.
I remember that.
You lying bitch.
God
this is
damn
not
it.
coincidence. Stop playing dog ditch.
You think we like coming up here? You see where we live. It's much better back there.
Yeah, it's so fucked up. And I think the Pleasure Squad would be happy to get a hold of Jim Jones. That's what I call him, the Pleasure Squad.
The Pleasure Squad. I like that. I'm going to use that now.
Yeah, and just some guys who are there to watch Judas Priest live. You know?
Judas. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. You know they come out and say, what, painkiller?
That's our shit. We listen to that on a loop down here.
He fucking takes a nail out. British steel, bitch.
We torture Miles Davis with that shit.
And like, so now I'm just picturing fucking Hellraiser, but like with the People's Temple.
Oh,
and they're
my
just
God.
like, this Kool-Aid is very bitter. And just rips someone's head open and just starts drinking the blood out in like a little tiny Dixie cup. You know, the little medicine Dixie cups.
Oh my God.
So yeah, so Jim Jones, he was heavily involved in the civil rights part of his communities, which kind of made him a target, very much so, very quickly.
Yeah.
And at that time in the 70s, you had to express a belief and show it. So it's kind of like pics or a different happen kind of situation.
If you talk the talk, do you walk the walk?
Yeah. And he talked about in a lot of his sermons, before they even thought about going to Guyana, he was telling them, he's like, hey, I'm being targeted by the police. I'm being targeted by this. But as a group, you know, we can hold it together. And he fakes assassination attempt in front of his church as an example. He pays 2 actors to come up and shoot blanks at him.
Wow.
2 members of a church, but they kind of black bag themselves and
Yeah.
run in front of the church, and they shoot him. He's got these like blood squibs, these like
The blood packs.
yeah, it's makeshift,
Of course.
and it shows he's been shot, and everybody's panicking because it's the end of the church, session or prayer or whatever, and it's like your priest just got shot in the fucking chest outside, and he kind of hunches over and says, and look and see, for I am fine. And it's just a bloody shirt with no bullet holes, and he's like,
He just said, "Ha, gotcha."
yeah, but he's like, look, I'm a healer. God protected me. Look, like he shot me, but now my wounds are gone. And it's a very visceral experience. It's just like it kind of clicks on something in the brain of instinct, of like, what the fuck did I just see?
Yeah, you just got traumatized, and now it's like your brain's trying to make sense of what
And it's
occurred.
like, and then you kind of come to the part of your brain that says, okay, yeah, maybe that's true.
Maybe he really is a prophet of God.
And another thing about cults is everyone's susceptible to cults. Everyone. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how strong you are.
Yeah.
Anybody can be caught up in a cult of varying degree. A great story of this is Wild Wild Country, which is the story of, what's his name? Osho.
Yes.
The Osho cult. And their whole story, Ma, Non, Sheila, and all them, which is actually a good little documentary, Wild Wild Country, on Netflix.
Was the Osho cult the one that was in Oregon?
Yep.
That tried to poison the town?
Yeah, and the guy from Nike tried to kill him.
Yes. Holy shit, I forgot about that part. Yeah. That's right, because they were trying to influence the local elections.
Yeah, the town of Antelope,
Yeah.
which we could go down the rabbit hole in that. But fun fact about that, you were talking about the senator who was killed. Leo Ryan was his name.
Yes.
Leo Ryan's daughter ended up joining the cult for the Wild Wild Country.
Holy shit.
She was part of that whole mainstay.
That's insane.
And so the whole story is, he's teaching these sermons across the board, doing a little bit of fiddling here and there of people, and he tells them, hey, the country doesn't want us. He's trying to create a platform of, we need to get out of here and create our own paradise on earth, because the nukes are dropping. Nukes are going to be dropping soon.
Got to incorporate the fire and brimstone to get people out the fucking door. Let's go.
Yeah, and it worked. And a lot of people. So he took a handful of people with him to Guyana. So I don't know if you know anything about South America, but a big part of the problem with trying to set up a settlement in South America was it's a jungle.
Yeah.
And they cleared out some area to put the compound on. The problem was he was supposed to raise food and stuff like this. Well, a lot of these, unlike Wild Wild Country, these people had no experience growing food, tending to gardens, and the fact that the land does not breathe life.
Yeah.
Because it's a fucking jungle. A jungle breathes life out of dead things. Things need to die rapidly so those trees can be fucking massive.
Yeah, for real.
So the dirt is bad.
Yeah.
Technically, the jungle has actually evaporated the dirt so much that it's not healthy enough to grow anything. And the amount of water they're needing, the heat itself.
It's a breeding ground for disease, malaria, yellow fever, countless other things.
And, you can get pills and everything and do all you want, but, it is bad, legitimately bad. If you saw, the movie The Order, I think that's what we were talking about earlier.
Yes, it was The Order. Yes, it was.
And that one, they show these little cabins. It's not even cabins, 4 people in a cabin in a 10 by 10 shed on stilts. And it's just that's basically what they had, these little tiny fucking little sheds. And they were sleeping in a giant community area of a concrete pad with a fucking roof over it.
It was like a sleepaway camp for Jesus.
Yeah.
In the middle of the fucking South American jungle.
Just like Sleepaway Camp, you will die. If anybody's ever seen that movie.
Oh, man, I got to rewatch that shit.
That movie did not age well. Especially the ending.
Dude, that movie's rough. That movie was even rough then when I watched it, years ago.
And so they're going in these little sheds here and there. And they have the giant area where they basically have church services. Now, he returned from Guyana and noticed that the People's Temple has kind of gone to shit.
Go figure.
There's a lot of infighting, a lot of bickering about money, stuff like that. And he was able to, his wife was actually able to help him most of all, to kind of boot and rally everyone under what needs to be done. And that's when he takes people down to God in mass droves. At the height of their compound is roughly 900 people. So 900 people living in a jungle.
Jesus, and with the living
limited
conditions,
food, limited water, hygiene, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they were it's hard work to live on a field. Some of these guys are guards, but some of these guys are like hard working farmers, and like people are trying to keep it together. People are wanting to leave, and he's just like, look, you can leave anytime you want, but, and that's the but part. It's kind of a nice little fuck you.
But you won't get very far.
And just going into the event itself, it kind of came to a head when families from San Francisco had approached Leo Ryan, the congressman, to do an investigation. And around this time, this is when a lot of cults are being investigated, because a lot more information was coming out about some of these organizations.
Yeah.
There was the People of Light Temple, or People of Light. There was, you had brought it up. I had done some more research on the
Anthill Kids.
The Anthill Kids, but the Friends of Lost Children. There's actually
the Finders of Lost Children. Yeah,
Finders of Lost Children. There's actually a more backward story of 1965 to 67.
Yes,
of a tale of them. There's a lot of like David Koresh-esque, Christianity cults popping up here and there. You do see the rise in, not just civil rights, but the rights of younger people. Because people don't realize that when you were 18, you weren't always allowed to vote. You had to wait even longer. Mm-hmm. There's actually an amendment stating that, if you're 18, you can vote. And you got a lot of these people coming out of a draft, coming out of Vietnam, who are 2-3 years out, in like 76, who are just so disenfranchised, people who are done with the American people because...
ready to leave.
Yeah, you got your, like John Rambo's. You're just like, I came here and got spit on. Fuck that noise.
Yeah, there's no point in me staying here. Why don't I just isolate myself?
Yeah, and I think the 70s are a very unique time for the United States in the grand scale of things, because it's the dying of the counterculture had begun. A group of new people had started, up and coming, who were born in the late 50s instead of the 18-year-old 60s kids.
And it was just all disillusionment, because it wasn't, it seemed as though nothing was adding up and nothing made sense anymore.
Yeah. And I love this scene. Like, it plays out pretty good. So from 69 to 70, you have a lot of cults and murders, a version of satanic panic, if you will.
Yes.
Early versions of that, of like, hey, these guys, this cult out in fucking... the fucking hills of California are just fucking murdering people, and that goes all the way to the East Coast. A lot of fear, and it doesn't ramp back up until the 80s, until evangelicals get into politics. But
go figure.
And you had a mini version of satanic panic almost. And then I look at it. I have to look at it as kind of like a visitor of like, why does this not make sense? Why is everyone being real fucking weird all of a sudden in this decade? And it is the disillusionment. The hippie generation have kind of said, fuck it, I don't want to be a hippie anymore. I want to be able to have a house and feed myself.
And have kids, stuff like that.
And they change. They become what becomes the 80s Republican Party. But people,
such a change.
Yes, but it's the disillusionment of like, hey, we fought the good fight, but I kind of want to work a job.
Yeah, I'm realizing I'm
money.
broke all the time. I have nowhere to stay.
Yeah,
I have no goals, aspirations, etc.
Yeah, and like, there's a cool scene in the movie Boogie Nights.
Classic William H. Macy.
Heather Graham is hanging out with Julianne Moore, and they're both freaking the fuck out. Yeah. And it's a great kind of like story of kids, the older people who grew up in the 60s and become full adults in the 70s. It's like goodbye 1979, hello 1980, and they just do a fat fucking line of coke, and it's just like, all right, now it's time to pick your fucking shit up. It's time to pick yourself up. And it's a good example of that whole fucking decade.
It was like a breath and a scream, that expression.
Yeah, it's got like the whole scene plays out how the 70s ended and how the 80s began. It's just like, will you be my mom? Yeah, I'll be your mom. And it's just like, oh fuck, this is visceral as shit. Like,
it's
this is kind of scary.
It's a reflection of the culture in a smaller aspect. It's just like even William H. Macy dying at the end of the film. Yeah. Like it's the same thing. It's one part of him died in the 70s, and the rest of him doesn't really get to live into the 80s.
And I think that was one thing about Jim Jones he was able to capitalize on, is his fear of the unknown coming into new decades, because he's playing on a lot of fear of the geopolitical world.
Yeah.
Some stuff happens. There's a lot of things that happen. There's a lot of terrorist attacks in the 70s that people don't realize, like the plane bombings and stuff like that.
The hostage crisis in Lebanon as well. Yeah. When they took over the plane.
Yeah, and then you had the Munich Olympics.
Yeah, the massacre, basically.
Yeah. There's a great movie called Munich. It's got
I've seen it.
It's a great movie.
That is a very good movie.
It's a rough movie to watch.
Very.
Especially when he chokes out that one bitch, and it's just like, god damn.
It was that gritty though. It was that fucked up.
And then you have something they don't really talk about in the 70s was the United States allowing Israeli nationals to come to the United States to hunt Germans.
Yeah.
So you have a kind of a disillusionment of what the United States is responsible for. Plus, I hate to say it, but Jimmy Carter is a fair weather president. Of all the good he does, in the mid to late 70s, he's not really on the economic front and financial front. Like, he is very lackluster.
Terrible.
Yeah, and
we had inflation so bad back then. I mean, gas crisis as well.
And you got to worry about the structure of the understanding of your country is, can the president commit a crime? And no, the president can't commit a crime because there's no basis of law against the president of the United States, and you have the disillusionment of an entire group of people coming in with the hippie generation who are just like, oh yeah, he fucking lied. He committed crime. Like he facilitated crime. And if it can happen at the higher office,
it can happen anywhere.
Yeah, and it's a giant disillusionment across the board with these fair weather fucking politicians who are trying to do change. And I think that's kind of what's fucked up about the Leah Ryan story is, he was trying to make a positive difference and help these people, his constituents, which you didn't really see a lot, and you still don't see it a lot today.
Yeah,
of, congressmen going the extra mile
and just trying to appease their people and actually do something.
And it's not even an extra mile; it's his job to help his citizens.
It's so bad that we have to say it's the extra mile, though, because then that just goes to show how often people in that position of power do anything for anybody who put them there.
Yeah, and I can only imagine what that's like because I can only go by what I know.
Yeah,
and we've talked about George Bush. I lived through the Clinton years, the Bush years, the B-Rock, the Trump years, and we're going to the Biden years, and it's just like I could kind of see where they're getting a disillusion from, and
because in a way it's kind of like repeating the past.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is, you talk about conservative Christians in the United States or evangelicals, and they're very not that. They're very non-Christian-y on certain parts, but
yeah,
he was a liberal. He
was Christ-like, where Christianity comes from,
and I think that's what kind of makes the turn for conservatism in the United States. They see this as a bastardization of Christianity.
And also a bastardization, and like on the other side of the aisle, it could be like a perversion of the hippie culture too, in a way, building that commune.
Yeah, and we see that now with conservatism now.
Yeah.
Of how they want to run things and how they want to create like a nationalist system. Well, it comes off kind of fascisty.
Very much so.
And I can see the opposite doing the same thing. It's false hope. One thing I've always said is when it comes to Democrats and policy, they don't have teeth. They're not sharp enough to get what they need.
And whereas Republican policies, three rows of razor sharp teeth.
Yeah, and it's a shark versus a guppy.
Yeah, and really it is.
And the Democrats. I'm not saying the Democrats aren't at fault here, but in this situation,
it's Democratic president.
Yeah, and it's not just that. It's it's a very heavy red state area. Like Leo Ryan, California, people don't realize, has a lot of red state type tendencies.
It does.
Arnold Schwarzenegger was a Republican.
I mean,
and he was
Northern
the governor.
California is a notorious Republican hub
Yeah.
in that state, too.
Yeah, and with San Francisco being right there, this guy doing a kind of perversion on what you believe in the conservatism. Yeah, I could see how that could be a problem.
Yeah.
But he gathers up his followers to go to Guyana. Now, not all of them go. There is a large group of members that are still staying back in the United States in various areas. Now, the fucked up thing was they were told they have the leader of each area kind of had like a fail-safe measure just in case it came out that Jim Jones had died, for them to kill themselves across the United States.
Fucking A.
Like that was actually a part of some documents that got left behind.
Wow.
So he had created this fail-safe for a very long time. And one of the things he trained his people to do would be at night. And this is the white knight training. So at night, the intercom would come on and would say, "White knights, white knights, white knights." And people would gather to the center where the over, like the canopy and everything was. I'm trying to remember what it's called.
Pavilion.
They would go into the pavilion, and first off, looking at some of these videos, the guards are facing the people and not facing the outside, looking for the danger. They're ready to. Anytime you see that,
You already know you're not escaping.
Yeah, you're not getting the fuck out of
You're
this.
being contained in this till this is done, or till you're fucking dead in this case.
yeah, and it bothered me out the gate when I first started watching some of these things.
Same.
And he would basically do what Saddam Hussein would do. He said, "There are people here who don't want to be here, and let me hear you speak. Speak up. Tell me what we can do better." And it's basically a litmus test on some of these people who are just like, "Yeah, I'm going to kill you. Just say, raise your fucking hand so I can kill you."
Yeah, that's really what. And what got me though was just the presence he had in those videos too, sitting there on that chair on the stage. So he's raised up and looking down at everybody. So you have to look up at him. Even just the physical standpoint of that was intimidating.
And what's really pretty neat is the way he moved around. So there's a psychological measure when it comes to when you're watching someone move.
Yeah.
He's very energetic in the videos of the church. He's moving around. He's moving around the pulpit. He's moving around the aisles. He's talking to people. I compare preaching to watching a music show, a live music venue.
Yes.
So especially after Pentecost and they got snakes in their hands.
Interactive.
And I can kind of see the allure of that.
Yeah.
Of drawing you in as being part of something bigger. And then while that's going on, you're not really listening to what he's saying.
Well, that kind of goes into I'll make a Family Guy reference. The episode where Lois is running for mayor, and
9/11.
Adam West before that, before she starts saying 9/11, he sits down onto Mort's lap and is just talking to him about how important a question is. Doesn't exactly answer it. He's saying nothing but saying everything.
Like a gubernatorial debate.
Oh yeah.
It's like, hey, how would you solve the water crisis? That's a great question, Maria, and thank you for asking that question. I know a lot of people here want to hear the answer.
Exactly.
And when I say that shit out loud, I just sound like a politician can be literally a scam hound at a circus.
And it's the same concept, though, with a preacher in Jim Jones's position, too, with this. He has them in the palm of his hand. He doesn't have to say anything revealing or really go in depth. As long as he's got the room captivated, he could say anything he wanted to at that point. Yeah,
so going up before he takes everyone there, he was in the Ukiah area of California. And this is where he started boot and rally and support.
Right.
For his thing, because he had gone from Northern California all the way to Redwood Valley, California,
wow,
which is a totally different area.
Yeah,
and he was able to, build his congregation by up to 140, and he considered these people, the 140, which were older members, as the most loyal of his followers going into the whole situation. Now there's a phrase they say here, apostolic socialism, which is what he preached, which is, love thy brother, love thyself, stuff like that. Stuff we grew up listening to in church.
Yeah.
But on a daily basis, which is socialism.
Yes.
You help those who need help. And I love, there's a version of this. There's a show called Letterkenny on Hulu.
Of course.
You've seen this?
Yes, I love Letterkenny.
And he has a lot of like sayings which are just perfect. He's like, someone asks for help, you help them. And I'm just like, that's the golden rule
Of anything, really.
of anything. And that's perfect.
Yeah.
And like, I would go to a cult in Canada with these fucking hicks. Now he said, this is where he kind of breaks off from the Protestant Catholics, is he said the view of God is not real. Almost saying that God himself isn't real. And it kind of worries his followers a little. It kind of shakes them to their core that he's saying this. He's been preaching about God. He said, no. Our idea of God is wrong. And he tells them, I know the truth. And that's when you kind of like reel him back in. He's reeling in with bait of what they, basically he's affirming the stuff they used to know and saying it's not true, but I have the truth. You've been told this whole time, which is a great way of recruiting someone on your side. It's like, no, it's okay for you to be wrong. You've been taught wrong. It's not your fault.
In a way, it's like a Socratic method. I know now that I know nothing. It's like he's playing off of that concept for people. Because that's kind of what the people would walk away with.
Yeah,
the concept that what I've known before is bullshit until he spoke.
So he had wrote a book, The Letter of Killeth. And it had got circled around a little bit in the Christian mainstream, but it was also saying that the King James Bible is not the Bible. It supported slavery, capitalism, stuff like that. And in a way it does. There's a lot of misquotes in a lot of the Bible. Sometimes people use the Bible to do whatever they want.
Yeah, it's
slavery was very much a part of that.
Yeah, very much.
He described the sacraments as being unholy. He kept certain practices from the Catholicism, such as eating and drinking the blood of Christ, the body of Christ. And then he failed the entrance for the IRS being a church. He kind of failed that.
Damn, son.
And that's where I kind of could see a conspiracy line, seeing this guy who's preaching against other churches. And then he's literally preaching. And he's got a temple of people who are black, white, Hispanic, Asian, all being cool with each other, while these other all-white other churches are just like, nah, fuck that noise.
Yeah, that's not cool, man.
That's not a real church.
You see, we got a thing working. Why are you deciding to change it? What the fuck is your problem? Yeah, it's one of those things. I didn't even know that he didn't register with the IRS to be a real church. Damn, dude.
So he believed in a kind of a radical, like, racial war that was coming, much like Charles Manson.
But his wasn't. His was to get everybody together instead of trying to ignite the flame.
Yeah, so his was, he believed that white supremacists and neo-Nazis would band together to kill black people. And for this congregation, it's very important to know that, hey, these people are coming after us, but together at People's Temple, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Jim Jones got our back. No one can stop Jim. Someone tried to shoot him a while back.
He survived.
And he kind of goes into the deep end of communism in like a religious way.
See, that's what always drew me to him. He has communist beliefs, but he also has that like splash of American conservatism.
So there's the disconnect again. American conservatism is a lot different than Christianity.
Yeah.
Christianity teaches us, to love thy neighbor as thyself. That's it.
Yeah.
You can sing every psalm, you can read every book. It comes down to that. Just be good to everybody. And legitimately good, not just fake bullshit.
Yeah.
And there's the disconnect between American conservatism and most likely a version of socialism, which is everyone's equal equity across the board. Everyone has a chance. Now, you will fail, but you had a chance.
Yeah, it wasn't like we didn't give you a chance.
Yeah. So he kind of admits that he's an atheist in 1976.
Wow.
Yeah, so he had spoke
Jesus.
to another parishioner on the phone, a former parishioner, and I think his name is like John Keir. But John Keir had said, hey, "Hey man, how are you doing? You know, I know everything's kind of tough." And John Keir was actually one of the first people there when he started the People's Temple in Indiana. So when they went to San Francisco, he saw the waning faith because, you know, they had came back in 1963, or was it 1967, and that's when the church had started to divide again after, you know, his trips had been going out.
Yeah.
And he had done an interview with someone from the New York Times a little bit later in 1977, and they kind of called him out on his atheist beliefs and still doing a temple like our church. And part of it is redacted just because
Wow.
and there's a lot of stipulation of what he said about his religious beliefs and his religion altogether. But in other words, it's believed that they redacted a part of the interview, which was, "I'm doing this for the money." Which
I actually remember one of the documentaries I was watching on Jonestown that was mentioned. That was mentioned in the context that it was fact. So
Yeah.
that's fascinating.
And I think what kind of goes hand in hand with that was when he moves the temple to California, he starts doing illicit drugs.
Oh, fuck.
He starts taking bennies, benzodiazepine,
No.
and a lot of uppers because he believed that he had to be available all the time.
Yeah, so he has to be awake
Yeah,
constantly.
so a little bit of coke, benzodiazepine, and he's fine.
He's got the Forrest Whitaker eye, but he's cool. He's got sunglasses on.
Yeah, and he's just bebopping around like Hitler, man. It's fucking, show you my moves. I call this the Jewish robot.
Oh, no.
It runs on the power of the German. So he kind of, while he was, you know, suffering from, you know, a version of paranoia from illicit drug use, he had made an enemy of the Ku Klux Klan. People don't really talk about this part, which I kind of don't like when they talk about the scope of Jim Jones. Was he had called out the Ku Klux Klan?
Shit.
And around this time, David Duke was kicking around.
Yeah,
from North and South Carolina.
This was basically David Duke's like later years, like still his heyday, but his later
Prime
heyday.
time.
Yeah,
Prime time David Duke.
strong and in charge type of shit.
I have no
yeah.
idea who that man is.
Yeah, bullshit.
Yeah. And so they had kind of accumulated some threats from, you know, KKK chapters across the United States.
Of course.
And a lot of that being in the Northwest, coming down from California. And I don't think people kind of understand what the western side of the United States is.
And Oregon, especially. Oregon was a huge hub for the KKK on the West Coast.
And like going into like the woods of Idaho and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Fun fact, Idaho produces the most porn stars. Yep. Then they invented OnlyFans, and now everybody can fuck for money.
God damn. Hey, listen. All right, I got paid good money when I did that.
Yeah.
Paid my rent.
Pay my rent, yeah. Like and subscribe.
My penis paid
His
my rent.
OnlyFans
How
will
many
be-
of you can say that?
We'll list his OnlyFans in the description.
Yeah.
What was it say? Dr. Quinn Medicine Man, I think is what your name was. It's all just really themed on a sitcom.
It's we do sitcom themed pornography.
Yep.
The Brady Bunch is just a big orgy. Everybody's of age. Everybody's of age.
Yeah. That's another fucking weird ass. Like, I never understood the Brady Bunch. I'm just like, two of those teens are going to be fucking each other.
Dude, okay,
Constantly.
you're not the only one that thought that same shit. Okay.
Because, you know, I watched that because there was a version of the Brady Bunch that came on later called Step by Step.
Yes, yes. Okay, I thought the same shit when I watched
those people
that.
were fucking each other.
100%. The way they interacted, it was way too intimate.
So, as part of, you know, his right before he goes to Guyana, he had tried to start a kind of like a commune in Redwoods, in Redwood Valley in California, and it was being targeted by what he perceived were the Ku Klux Klan. Actually, it was being targeted by the local municipality because he was breaking the law. Because he wouldn't pay property taxes. I don't care how badass you are. I don't care if you're fucking Lex Luthor or the fucking Joker or goddamn Ted Bundy. The IRS, they'll take you down.
I mean, after all, what does the IRS spell? Theirs. Listen, motherfucker, you owe me.
This is mine.
This is mine, or your kneecaps are mine.
We put down that syphilis-ridden Capone, we can put you down.
He didn't go to jail for no murder. He went to jail because he didn't pay us.
And he started to, because of his paranoia, he kind of started using some version of discipline on his parishioners and flock, where he would sit them in a room by themselves, and he would go in the room and sit there and make them pray. He would force them to pray. And it's basically younger women, women with a child or something like that. And he had a fascination with molesting these people.
Jesus. Well, no pun intended, but fuck, man.
Yeah,
wow.
And to kind of prove how much power he had, he would coerce these women to have abortions.
That really flips the whole concept of being Christ-like or even Christianity at that point in time in American history on its head, like completely.
Well, actually, in the Christian Bible, even the King James Bible, there are parts in there that says a baby is not a baby until it draws its first breath. There's a lot of stipulations in the Bible. There's actually no thing about abortion itself.
The herbal tea concept, where they had to make a certain tea to drink in order to flush out the fetus,
and I guess it's just people who are not reading like the rules part of the Bible.
Yeah.
Like Leviticus is nothing but fucking rules.
It really is.
You can't eat bacon wrapped shrimp. You can't have long hair if you're a dude. It's ridiculous.
It's the fine print of the Bible.
And it's the fine print of you don't want to be a pescatarian and a hippie. It's very anti-hippie.
There's no fun in this part. You skip over if you want to have fun.
Yeah, we talked about it before. Like they didn't like crop rotating. And I'm just like... This goes into a lot of other dumber fucking rules.
Did you guys think before? Okay.
So he started creating a urban expansion program, which kind of includes like a security force, much like the people from Rajneeshpuram. That's the name of the Wild Country.
Yeah, the Rajneeshis.
The Rajneeshis had done the same thing later on when they started to ramp up. Yeah, and I just think it's funny that as soon as you start waving guns around as part of the church, I'm just like, I'm out.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of people would be like, I'm not cool with this.
Yeah, this is kind of... I'm just wondering what the people who stick around are thinking. Like, this whatever. That's fine. I kind of figured it was going to get to this step.
I will say, the Rajneeshpuram people, they look fucking fly in their fucking peach and burgundy red fucking vests.
With fucking machine guns.
With Uzis and fucking aviators on.
Honestly, that was probably the most stylish cult I think I've ever seen in my life.
Can you that'd be like a Shaft villain?
Free
love, motherfucker! Bam!
Oh my God!
Shaft, blood coming out. Fuck you, Shaft! You tell Ma non shit, I'm coming.
This is possibly the greatest Dirty Harry movie that never was a Dirty Harry movie.
How many bullets did I count? You got 6 shots, motherfucker.
Or even Death Wish too, with Charles Charles Bronson. Same concept with the third film with the whole group of punks that fucking.
I showed that to Alex, and he was just like, "What the fuck is that guy look like?" And he's got like a mohawk, but it's like a comb over mohawk.
Yeah, and everybody's got the
face paint.
Yeah, the face paint. With
they look like they should have died in the Warriors.
Yeah, they look like one of the Warriors gangs. Yeah.
Oh shit, is that the Midtown Riffs? Oh fuck.
Nah, they ain't funky enough.
Nah, they ain't funky enough. The Turnbull ACs know what's up. I think about that movie almost every day for some fucking reason.
That is another film that needs to be talked about more.
Someone posted a picture of the face painted baseball guys.
Oh, the Baseball Furies, yeah.
And someone's like, "Hey, what's their name?" No one's answering. I'm just like, "It's the Furies."
Yeah, the Baseball Furies. My favorite gang was the fucking either the Midtown Riffs or who were the dudes on the rollerblades?
Turnbull ACs.
Thank you. That's okay. I wasn't sure if that was them or not.
Yeah, the Orphans.
The Orphans were only in there briefly. Yeah, they didn't even fight. They had the most number, but they didn't fight the Warriors.
The best ones were the Lizzies.
Lizzies.
Famous fucking line. Oh shit, the bitches are strapped. Bam!
Just knocks her the fuck out. That scene was great. I laughed so hard watching that the first time.
God, I kind of want a sequel to be made.
I don't think that shit would fly in this period of time just because of the first fucking thing that's said. What are you, some kind of...
Oh, God, it's so good. Me and Brad fucking...
Such a classic, dude.
Talk shit about that movie because we showed Alex in West Virginia that movie. And I'm just like, it's such a good movie.
I just love the fact that the dude that is in the Rogues, the leader of the Rogues, still had an acting career 20 years later in The Crow.
Yeah. Well, he becomes the leader of the Rogues is also the guy who kills Chris Rock in The Longest Yard.
Holy shit! Yeah,
And he plays that same character in the original Longest Yard with Burt Reynolds.
he's
It's the same-
reprising.
yeah, he's just reprising his role.
That makes a lot of sense because the bandana he wears too.
Yeah. That dude's in a shit ton of movies. He's in John Wick. He's the guy who picks up the dead bodies.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. This is
I didn't even realize the connection, but
Yeah. But going back to this real fucking gang, the First People's Gang, the People's Temple Gang, TPG.
represent.
Oh shit, the preacher is strapped. Yeah. But like, their urban outreach problem, they were rocking with rifles and shit down to fucking LA trying to recruit people.
Oh yeah, we reaching out.
Yeah, and some people don't realize it. So like, going into like the scenario they're in, not long ago before this, Ronald Reagan was the governor of California, and he had passed a pervasive gun law in California where you couldn't open carry.
Yep.
And that is astonishing, like what we think of what a Republican conservative thinks of guns. And it was the outlaw of open carry in his state.
And especially a conservative Republican of that magnitude, not only a president, but just his views are still shared even today.
Yeah. And he kind of like, in 1971, 72, he kind of occupied an old Scottish Rite temple in L.A., which
Just took it over.
Yeah, it took it over. And people don't really talk about that part because it's mainly the focus of the Kool-Aid and the death. They forget all the other nasty shit he did beforehand.
Like, I'm just picturing somebody coming back and be like, what the fuck? There's people in here. Hey.
And as he moved around L.A., in the Watts Compton area, that's where he got a large number of his recruits or members was in that area, just because of the violence and the poverty level had started to rise.
And also the police department wasn't exactly helping in that area.
Was it though? Like, I have a whole theory about the police violence in trees. I'll love to talk to you about that one.
Yeah, love to have that
The lack of
conversation.
trees causes more violence. It's really hot.
There's no shade.
Yeah. And it started in that diner scene from fucking Pulp Fiction. Be cool, bitch. Be cool.
We're gonna make like 3 Fonzies.
Be cool. And so he goes down to, I'm just going to go ahead. A lot of the faith healing and the fundraising had kind of built up kind of to a plateau in California. And keep in mind, this is the later end of the 70s. And so a lot of people are coming home or, hearing these stories about people having to be deprogrammed and stuff like that. Election is coming up in 3 years. So there is a belief that the country needs to take a longer dive on what it needs to do. So with anti-communist fervor kicking back up in the 70s,
Yeah.
You know what happened in Greensboro, North Carolina, right?
Regarding.
The Klan and the communists.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
that is kind of the semblance of what a kind of example of why he needed to leave, is because he was teaching more communist values through Christ, and then making a fucking target by the Ku Klux Klan by targeting them. And so it kind of came to a head point, which kind of forced him down south to South America.
It was either you stay here and fight a fucking war or you run.
And like, just going by the map itself, Ukiah is still like miles above Santa Rosa, which is miles above San Francisco. So he basically hit the whole fucking state of California from Ukiah all the way to Bakersfield and Los Angeles before he decided to finally take off. And going into the congressman going down, he takes up the mantle of going down south. And I find it astonishing that Jim Jones didn't shoot him right away. And like, if you think about this for a second, like nowadays, if you were to shoot a senator, the amount of fucking, just political parts aside, let's say someone popped off a senator one time.
Especially nowadays, the media coverage would be insane. There'd be a nationwide manhunt, and if you go into international areas, there would be pressure for that government to give them up. And
I'm just thinking of like a local politician just trying to do what's right by trying to, but like he literally tried to do something right.
Yeah, and just ends up getting fucking capped for it. Just clipped right from the start.
And what astonishes me is he goes down there in November, right before Thanksgiving. He's there for, I think, 2 days.
Yeah, 2 days.
He meets with everybody, and he literally says out loud with Jim Jones, he's like, it looks like everyone's here happy. And they start cheering because that's what they're told to do. And it gives off an ominous vibe because if you look at the video, Ryan is not smiling. He's cheering, but he's not smiling.
There's no joy in his eyes.
Yeah, like you see, if you look at the video, he's just clapping his hands and thanks.
But he's got a stone-faced expression. I remember that.
And he thanks Jim Jones for the opportunity to come down here. And the same as with Jim Jones, it's a stare down.
Yeah.
The whole time, because it's the night of before they die. It's the eve of the day. And so they pack their stuff and they bring some people with them, people who wanted to leave. And what is kind of heart-wrenching about this is one of the women who wanted to leave had their kid with them. Now, Jim Jones's wife is there while this is going on. And she's freaking out because she's taking the kid. And she's just freaking the fuck out.
Yeah.
So, as they arrive to the, as they're driven to Kachaport, where they die, the video footage of that is kind of astonishing. Have you seen it?
Yeah, that's one of the most prevalent things that sticks in my memories.
And so Ryan is killed along with his assistant. A few of them scattered to the wood line and survive.
Yeah,
which I think is kind of crazy because like they were taking AK rounds to the back and they lived, which is very
unlikely in any scenario. That's a 5.57 round that's going through you.
Yeah, and so it's a very unique story. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just like
it's very otherworldly almost. Like
yes.
they did some kind of divine intervention in a hopeless situation, especially in a cult like that. You know, normally people who try to escape a cult are killed violently, like especially with the Anthill kids.
Yeah. So what people don't realize is like Leo Ryan was trying to get the Georgetown guy on it, which is a port south of Jimtown or whatever, Jonestown.
Jonestown.
Yeah, Jim Jonestown.
Ours is better.
Jimtown.
Jimtown.
Why does Jim hate the magician? And it comes to a head. He does the White Nights that morning.
Fuck.
And this congregation had built up to a little over 900 people. And when they do count Senator Ryan in the count of dead bodies at the airstrip. Jones ordered his congregation to drink a concoction of cyanide-laced grape-flavored Flavor Aid. In all, 918 people died, included 276 children. And another part of this includes 4 people at the temple headquarters in Georgetown.
See, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. So they had relayed information to their offices in the States, and those people were beginning to kill themselves.
Holy
they were in their
shit.
process of that. There's actually one woman who survived. She said, like, hey, I saw this lady telling us we need to kill ourselves, and she said no. And the lady's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, like how far are you actually going to carry that out? Especially with not having the pressure of the man being there.
And, a lot of the people who rejected the drink were injected with cyanide. So a lot of this was forced mass murder.
Even children, infants, because they couldn't drink it. It's fucked, dude.
Yeah. This was considered the greatest loss in American life till 9/11.
Really? That?
Yes.
The Jones?
900 people.
Holy shit, I would have thought there was some other event. I didn't...
Yeah. But it is considered the largest mass murder of Americans.
That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
That's fucking insane.
And
Jesus
you're talking about
Christ.
1978 all the way to 2001.
That's a jump, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a... Wow. That's...
And we're not even talking about all those kids who were killed by Satanists who listened to Metallica.
Yeah.
I know three in fucking Arkansas.
That's just it gets me because I'm thinking about that these people devoted all this time and all this life to this person who was just mooching off of opportunities, targets of opportunity in every aspect, both from a physical sense of like essentially breaking into buildings or finding plots of land and not paying any property tax on it, to just mass murder. He like segued, and listening to the gradual rise of his stance as the leader of this group, it really puts into perspective how much power he actually had. I mean, if you have the power to not only get 900 people to either kill themselves or be killed by somebody that's loyal to you, and then have countless others distance away do the same thing,
Yeah.
that just says the psychological hold he had on people.
Yeah, and what's crazy is, the aftermath of all this. Going into 1979, the stateside churches still existed. Congregations were still meeting up until 1979.
Fuck.
And then because it was reported that Jim Jones had asked that any funds from the church after his death were to be left to the Communist Party of America.
Wow, I actually didn't know there was that sort of contribution from him.
Yeah, and so going into like the suicide itself, this became a kind of a staunch point against people like the Branch Davidians, the Solar Temple, Shinrikyo, Heaven's Gate. It kind of put a spotlight on what Americans are looking out for in a very fucked up way.
Yeah.
And I think about like timeline wise, like I kind of see, that's how I see everything when I talk about stuff in the past.
I've realized that you kind of set it up, start from the beginning to the end.
1976 California, Ted Bundy is out and about. And the fact that all these prolific figures don't meet each other at some point,
I feel like,
is fucking insane.
I kind of think of it as like a Quentin Tarantino film where it's like 3 films are happening at one time. Jackie Brown, Reservoir Dogs, and Pulp Fiction are all happening at the same time. There's 3 different stories that are prolific in American history for the worst reasons. But
Mr. Orange looks like a guy who's holding up a diner.
For real. Like, or you just see like randomly. I have this image in my head of Jim Jones bumping into Ted Bundy, and like Ted Bundy saying, "Oh, dude, I'm sorry," and then continuing on his day. Just little idiosyncrasies like that.
And I think about that because I had saw a photo once of Butch Cassidy and Sundance with Theodore Roosevelt and a couple other big people in history in a group photo, like Henry Ford.
What the fuck?
It was at an excursion area, like a conservationist, like hunting lodge or whatever.
Wow.
And apparently all these people were in the same room at the same time. And I'm like, what the fuck?
How did this happen?
And like somebody has photo the picture. I think it's fake, but I'm just like, it's very elaborate photo to have these people,
It's almost authentic too, and its delivery.
And they're all around at that same time. And you have other people, kind of moving around in the late 60s, early 70s in these same areas of Indianapolis and everything. California especially, where everything was happening.
Yeah.
So what happened was within the receivership of the whole temple itself in Red River Valley, it was finally destroyed during the earthquake in the 90s. But that's how long they had it. They had it until the 90s of the earthquake.
That's fucking nuts. You would think that the state government would shut it down, or they would close it down just from all the controversy.
So it had went into a receivership of an attorney, and he held the rights to the building itself.
Gotcha.
And because it's a church, it's not an asset on a personal end.
Yeah, that's true.
And if he files the paperwork as a church, and there's still congregation members that were still going. Not everybody moved to Guyana. It was like a select group of people.
Yeah,
almost 1,000 people.
Wow, I didn't realize their numbers were still. I didn't realize their numbers were still that prevalent.
So as of 1989, the Loma Prieta earthquake destroyed the original headquarters. of Jim Jones and the People's Temple.
Wow.
As of right now, a post office that's there. It's a post office.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, you just walk in there one day, get ready to send a package. It's just a pair of black sunglasses sitting on the counter.
And what's crazy is like there were a handful of Guyana members who stayed after the massacre, who lived and didn't leave until about May of '79. They still tried to make it work.
I remember hearing about that there were people that went through to check the bodies to go, like the last few that didn't die.
Yeah.
There were some Guyana nationals among everybody. It's another thing I've heard. I don't know if that's a rumor or if that's a just like, a hoax or some sort of delusion of grandeur.
And this kind of goes into like the thought process of that had to be going on in some of the guys that were there. Of, I have to kill a child.
Why is this right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's even audio footage, audio records of one of the women actually challenging him and arguing with him back and forth, and him getting visibly and verbally
Yeah,
irate.
he refers to her as mother.
Yeah.
Oh, it's disturbing.
It really is. Like, I'm just speechless thinking about it because it lives, like, talking about it really brings it to the forefront of my memories.
And it's very visceral.
Yeah.
Because we'll talk about some other cults that, especially like the Anthill Kids, which
That's just fucking brutal.
yeah, it is brutal. The LDS and their involvement. But I think Jim Jones' People's Temple is the big one because of the way it was handled. Because people don't know who the Anthill Kids are. People don't know who Shinrikyo is. People go in these blind. I think I explained a cult, the Solar Temple cult, to someone, and they had never heard of it. And I'm just like, yeah, probably not, because it's not Jim Jones,
and it's also not the cults that you mentioned too, especially the Anthill Kids as well, weren't really based in the U.S.
Yeah, they were in Canada.
Yeah, they were a Canadian cult as well. So it's like when it's not happening, like down the road, next door, figuratively speaking, of course, it doesn't seem like it's our problem. That's somebody else in a different place. But when it happens right here in the U.S. of A., suddenly it's at the forefront of everybody's memories. It's at the forefront of everybody's fears, especially in that era with the fear of cults and the beginning parts of satanic panic.
Yeah. And it also begins an investigation into what the FBI was doing to try to infiltrate some of these groups, especially local agents of like the police department and stuff like that. Because one of the facets of the Rajneeshpuram was they had a man on the inside.
Yeah, they had a undercover cop that was working.
Yeah, and that's another fascinating one I'll love to discuss. But
Likewise.
But yeah, so that's the story of Jim Jones.
Yeah.
Don't trust Bible thumping Adventists, I guess. I don't fucking
Especially if they wear black sunglasses.
know. Oh, God.
White clothes and black
He
sunglasses.
looked like a Mexican George Jones.
He did look like a Mexican.
Yeah, it's just like him swear, instead of divorce, it's apocalypse. And he's
Yeah.
APOCALYSPE.
All my exes live in Guyana.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. Just slap a cowboy hat on
Yeah.
him. Boom. There you go. Country record of the year right there.
Yeah, oh, God. It is just the version of I Don't Want to Play House.
He's got
The
over
10-1
100 hits, but all of his most devout listeners are all dead.
Yeah. Coming to you live with 900 hits.
Oh my God.
God.
Sponsored by Flavor Aid. Because Kool-Aid's too
Oh,
expensive.
no.
Oh no.
You broke motherfucker. He doesn't come through the wall. He just knocks.
Hey.
And he's not in a pitcher. He's in a fucking, like, a bowl.
He's at, oh my God, yes. Yes, a bowl that's got a crack in the middle that you don't know if it's about to shatter.
Yeah. The Flavor Aid chick.
The
You guys like chairs? And it starts waking a pack.
just starts popping pills halfway through.
Oh, Benny.
I gotta take my benzos to combat the amphetamines I'm on.
So, as we sit here in 2022 joking about this. How do you think people nowadays are susceptible to cults with the way they're going now?
You would have to use a lot of social media.
Like Nexium.
What's that?
Like the Nexium cult.
Yeah. I heard some people mention them and that they utilize that, but who exactly are they?
It works kind of like a multi-level marketing scheme.
So is it kind of like a pyramid scheme, or
Kinda,
is it?
But it's about attention. They do a lot of love bomb. They do the same thing every other cult does. They drag you in, love bomb the shit out of you, and isolate you from your friends, and then that's it.
It's like an abusive relationship.
That one girl, Allison Mack from Smallville.
Yeah.
The blonde chick. Yeah, she was part of it.
What the fuck?
And apparently there was like a lot of sexual assault and stuff going on. But
like with every cult?
Yeah, but like I was just when I see stuff like that, I'm just like, how is this still a thing?
Because there's always somebody that's there's always an outsider in every culture, in every country. There's always somebody that doesn't feel like they belong, and that society kind of kicks them to the side. Yeah. And sometimes they do it themselves, and other times it's just society failing them to where they need to find some other way to express themselves or be part of a larger conglomerate.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think a lot of push-pull mechanic when it comes to cults nowadays.
Yeah.
Like you said, you need to have a lot of social media presence. You can't give out the full bag online.
I mean,
like a good version of this is Scientology. No one knew what the end of Scientology was until Trey Parker, Matt Stone's like, it's aliens.
Yeah.
Because they talk to people who have made it to that. Like, it's a ladder. Like, it's a ladder religion, and once you get to the tippy top, that's when they're telling, like, hey, yeah, I'll tell you about the aliens. That's
like, have you ever watched the Leah Remini?
Yeah.
That whole thing kind of goes in, especially the Sea Org people.
Yeah, the Sea Org. Funny fucking story about L. Ron Hubbard. He had a jazz fusion band.
Yes.
And like, what the guy who's doing the review of like his stuff, he's like, dude, you should have stuck with this. This is rocking.
And I've listened to it, and it fucking kills. Like that shit.
The Apostolites or some shit.
Yeah,
L. Ron Hubbard and the fucking
Apostolites. I think it was L. Ron Hubbard and the Apostolites or something of that sort. It had that cliche name, but dude, they were fucking killing it. It was like King
funk,
Crimson,
jazz and shit.
It was like King Crimson with a little bit more funk.
Yeah,
that's what it reminded me of. And I'm like, why the fuck couldn't he just stay with this? It's even like Charlie Manson had songs that he wrote, and it's like, dude, why couldn't you just stay with this? You would have been like another. You would have been on par with. I'm trying to think of an artist to compare him to, because he can't.
Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys.
Yeah, for real.
You guys like Coke and the conga line? I need you to learn this didgeridoo.
Mike Love, eat your heart out.
Yeah. I need 12,000 didgeridoos.
It's Charlie, bitch.
Yeah. Hey, like on a back end of that, I can't think of any other cult that would be as prevalent as the Manson family going to the Jim Jones between those two timelines of like 1971 all the way to 1978.
Kind of goes into the saying, when one door closes, another one opens.
Yeah. Except they're not trying to shoot presidents. They only shoot congressmen.
Listen, we haven't gotten to that level yet.
Yeah, we're not that level.
That's, we're here. That's all the way up here.
I'm just like, I can just imagine like, just Charles Manson being like, oh yeah, we love the fucking Beatles. The White Album's the shit. And Jim Jones is like putting on a record of like Skinnerd.
I'll tell you what, this fucks better than the Beatles.
Give me three steps. Back the fuck up. That's what it means. He's just listening to fucking Second Helman's needle in a spoon while he's just fucking doing bennies. And just like, come here, bitch. I gotta talk to you.
And then as she's walking across the fucking room, he changes the record and he puts on Always on the Hunt. That's a
fucking badass song.
That is one of my favorite Skinner songs.
I met Arnold Powell.
Did you really?
Yeah, in Statesville, North Carolina. He came to this restaurant I was working and played.
Dude, that's
with a band,
awesome.
And they did On the Hunt, and I'm in the kitchen cooking French fries. I'm just like, man, that's a badass fucking
I gotta
song.
take a break for a minute.
Man, fuck you guys.
Man, I don't fucking need this.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite Skinner songs playing.
But yeah, so we'll wrap up here.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening. Again, this is Chris with
Quinn
for the Cryptid Conspiracy Cult. Again, hit us up in the Discord. Let us know what you want to hear next. We do have a plan, but plans change.
Always open to suggestions.
We need a rotating third to make the conspiracy real.
Yeah, somebody who's lived it. I seen it.
Maybe we'll play. What is it? A Secret Hitler.
A Secret Hitler.
The game. It's a real thing.
Are you serious?
Secret Hitler is a game. It's how you teach people about fascism.
Wow.
It's great. There's a lizard Hitler, and it's fucking fantastic.
I want to meet Reptilian Hitler.